life is like building a brick wall. You've never seen a person build a brick wall all at once. I don't care who they are, they have to lay one brick at a time. And that's every day in our lives. So every day is a brick. All you have to do is just worry about laying that one brick. Don't worry about the wall, because the wall is going to be finished as long as you lay a brick a day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed channel. My name is Matthew Pillmore. I'm the president of a company called VIP Financial Education. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm really excited about this. This is going to be one of the first times that I've invited a couple new members to come on and just share their story. So I want to welcome both Jamaun and Malika to the channel. They have been longtime audience members of our YouTube platform. And I had a really, really inspirational conversation with Jamaun last week. And I couldn't help but insist that he come on to the channel and share their story with you, because it's a story of total inspiration. In fact, I have to admit, I got choked up probably 3 times while we were talking, because so much of what he's come through to get to where he is today not only just kind of really inspired me, but I also realized that there were a lot of commonalities between Malika and Jamaun's relationship with the one I have with Kellyanne. And so I really just wanted to kind of walk through this path that they've been on with everybody. And hopefully somebody on the channel will take away something that kind of helps you realize the power of grit. And so, Jamaun's a father of 4, collegiate athlete, right, Jamaun? Mm-hmm. Also has accomplished some incredible physical fitness objectives that I'm sure he'll touch on as well. So guys, without further ado, just curious to hear a little bit about your journey and to, what got you to where you are today. So take it away.
Okay. For me, like we talked before, I was born and raised in Compton, California, which of course, if anybody knows anything about Compton, it's not the best place to grow up. There's a lot of things that you have to go through that, you grow up very quickly. Not only that, the odds of making it out successfully is very slim. So I chose to participate in athletics and ended up getting a full ride scholarship to the University of Washington, go Huskies, to play football. Physically, I was prepared. Emotionally, I was not prepared. I had never really been outside of my parents' umbrella, nor been outside of Compton, California for extended periods of time. So I struggled quite a bit with my social life, just social skills. I had no social skills at all. Social norms where I grew up and social norms where I went to college is like night and day. So, I was kind of in trouble, just barely passing to stay eligible because I really didn't care about school. I was studying something that wasn't important to me. And my only objective was to go to the NFL. And that ultimately fell through for several different reasons. And one, my behavior. And I take full responsibility for that now that I'm 38, finally, but I understood that me going to the NFL and having all that money probably would have been my demise. So it didn't work out for me. So I tried a lot of different things. I did construction. I was a general contractor. I was a realtor. I was doing really well during the boom of real estate in the early 2000s. I was making tons of money, not really knowing what to do with it, how to be secure, the things that you guys teach on your channel, how to have access to capital just in case things happen. And those just in case things happen to me, probably every last one happened to me, from medical liabilities of my son Josiah being premature.
Yeah, you had a 3-month premature baby, right? Your first son?
Yeah, that was November 2006. He only weighed 2 pounds.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was difficult, not just physically and emotionally, but also financially. It just destroyed everything, because I didn't have my insurances set up appropriately. I was, 27, 26, making tons of money. Felt like it would be a never-ending faucet of dollars, which couldn't be further from the truth. I had just purchased a home that I was living in. I was doing really well from the surface, but my foundation was very rocky, to say the least. So after he was born in '06, my brother called me on the phone. He was like, let me help you out. He's a registered nurse, and he's 7 years older than me, so he was very established. And
he was living in Texas at the time, though, right?
no, he was living in California, where I'm from. Yeah, so I was in Seattle. So I moved back to California to get the assistance from my brother and my family. In March of 2007, and he passed away July of 2007, which was a 6-month span of time that I wouldn't wish on anybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was an illness that took him over a 6-month period, basically?
No, he died all of a sudden.
Oh.
It was actually some negligence on the part of the hospital. He was on some medication that they didn't chart appropriately.
Wow.
So the intervention that they did, him being a nurse, as well as my mom, who has her doctorate in nursing, and she was there. She was like, this is not right. And within 6 days, he had passed away.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
How horrible. So that must have thrown you for quite a loop.
Yeah, it was. My brother was, the strength, to me. I had never seen him vulnerable. He was very aggressive, very alpha, and to see him not just vulnerable, but literally scared, and that whole progression happened so quickly, and still had a baby to care for who was less than a year old, who was out the hospital for 6 months, and it was system overload, man. And I ended up gaining like 130 pounds, just eating everything that I could, just trying to make it, man.
Right. Just trying to just coping mechanisms to get you into that comfort, huh?
Yeah.
So 130-pound weight gain over what period of time?
It was about 2 years, from like '07 to, I started gaining weight around the time my son Josiah was born, like really gaining. And then it took about 2 years, and I went from a fit about 245 to 265, 267. 367.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. So then you relocated during this time too, right? Isn't that what kind of prompted the move to Texas?
Well, I was still living in my brother's house, and of course, nobody was paying the mortgage because he was deceased. So the bank came calling for the home, and I showed up to the house one day, and they had changed all the locks with all of my stuff still inside. So
oh, wow.
I just literally had to leave in a day. They gave me a day. They came and opened the door. They was like, you got 24 hours. So I put all my stuff in storage, and then I just went on the internet and I searched at different places that, the economy was okay, that I can kind of start over. And that's how I landed in Texas.
Wow. Just out of the blue.
Out of the blue. It was very, very random. I didn't even have a job. I flew here and got a job within like 48 hours. So
I can't imagine what that was like. So tell us a little bit about what kept you moving forward. How did you keep putting one foot ahead of the next?
Ironically, my brother's passing away, and people, it sounds bizarre. Like somebody passed away. It makes you want to keep living. Like, really? And I just know what kind of person my brother was. I could hear him like, stop whining, stop complaining. It ain't that hard. We lived way worse than this. We've been through way more. Keep going, keep going. It's gonna work. Do what you gotta do. Stop complaining, shut up and do it. And really it was, him, and we had some family problems, so I wasn't on good terms with my mom at the time. So I literally was just by myself, and
so you didn't have a choice, really?
No, I didn't have a choice. Either I sink or I swim, like literally. So I chose to swim.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So what happened next? You get to Texas. You don't have any idea what where your professional life is heading. What happened next?
So I got a job working with young ladies. I call them young ladies. They were teenage girls who all were taken from homes through CPS. And that just kind of changed my life. These young baby girls with no parents and the people in their lives that were supposed to be responsible for them to, just completely abandon them. And they were happy every day. So going to work was a pleasure because my problems didn't seem that bad.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
yeah.
So you fed on them, and they motivated you to I mean, that almost was your first introduction to your behavioral therapy profession, right? I mean, in a sense.
Right. And I work with licensed professional counselors and psychiatrists. So that was my first introduction into any type of treatment or interventions like that. And I fell in love with it, so that was in '08, and I stayed there and ended up transferring to a state job doing the same thing, which was a tremendous promotion for me. And that's where I met my wife now.
Okay.
So we actually, she taught me a lot about specifically behavior analysis, and the things that she taught me, she thought she was teaching me for work, but it actually was for myself.
Very interesting.
So
it's interesting how that works out, because I think that's a lot of what I've gained with Kellyanne too, is, there's an element of coaching between her and I where we're reciprocating ideas and masterminding professional growth, but so much of it is internalized too, where I think is helping us grow personally so much too. Mm-hmm. So I get that. And so then how did that then grow into, you guys forming a relationship, getting married, how did you end up where you are now?
It was a friendship at first, of course. I think any, long lasting romantic relationship has to start with some type of friendship basis. You got to kind of like each other,
Yeah, exactly. It always helps.
Yeah. So for us, it was, we spent a lot of time just talking, and for me, as an ex-football player, when it comes to the opposite sex, it wasn't always just all these long conversations.
Right.
It's a whole different dynamic that I come from as far as interacting with young ladies. So for me, like I said, she enlightened me a lot. And I ended up leaving our conversations everything that I thought, all of my conditioning, maybe is not what I thought it was, So just those moments just had me really intrigued with her, especially. So
but that went both ways. So he's teaching me information and things about life that I genuinely didn't know, because he has and we joke about it, he has more street cred than I do, right? So my life couldn't be more opposite than his. And
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a suburb north of Dallas in Allen, Texas, and that county is one of the most wealthy in the entire nation.
Wow.
And the people in that area, right, we don't really, there's not a lot of crime. We hang out with the police officers on the street because they know us, and nothing was very rough. And I was just told to go to school, and that's what I did. I went to school and never looked back. And education was the biggest thing driving me. But after graduating and getting a master's degree and meeting Jamaun at my first real job, I realized that I had acquired a lot of student loan debt and had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't have another plan. And so his business perspective and even all of his shortcomings with regard to the failures that he experienced was still more enlightening to me than anybody else could offer me. Nobody could offer me any financial advice once I graduated. It was just kind of like, well, good, you graduated and you did what you were supposed to.
Right. Now go find a job and figure out how to pay it all off. Right.
Yeah, and as he was talking to me, I was early on in our relationship, I was relieved to think that at least I'm not just going to die at this job working for the state, because nobody told me to do anything else.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, you just recently went back to get your PhD, right?
Yes. So I went back to school. So I obviously didn't learn my lessons.
Yeah, I didn't think there was enough debt yet, right?
I just felt like I might as well just get one more degree if that's all that's left.
Professional student.
But she's doing it a different way now.
Yeah.
She has some other things that are compensating for the loans, and it's a whole different ballgame now that she knows different.
Yeah.
And you're actively working still, right? As a behavioral analyst now?
Yes. Still practicing and going to school and taking care of the family.
Man alive.
Teaching.
How are there enough hours in the day?
I don't know.
We all have the same amount, and that's what I tell her all the time. We all have the same amount. Us, Bill Gates, everybody has 24 hours.
That's exactly right.
It's just about what you do with it. And the one thing that she's not mentioning is she drives 180 miles each way to school every week.
How many times are you doing that in a week?
Once a week.
Once per week. Wow, that's a big commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you guys find each other, and your influence on Jamaun, obviously, he starts progressing in his career. And then when did you actually start attacking the physical health problem that had occurred?
It was almost
about 125-pound weight loss, right?
Yeah, it was like 125 pounds ago.
Man.
Yeah, that's a whole person, man.
Sure is.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So how long did that take?
Honestly, I started around the time we met. I was like, I started having issues with my body, like my feet. I had plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, I've had that. It's terrible.
I was having problems breathing, just like going upstairs, and I'm like, this is enough. So I just sat down, and what I did was I took her approach, and I just omitted one thing at a time. The first thing was sodas. Sodas was my thing. I had to have sodas all the time.
What kind?
Whatever you had. Well, I like Sprite. I'm a Sprite drinker, So I had Sprite and lemonade. That was my thing. So
it was just sugar intake.
Sugar intake and eating just terrible fast food, just terrible amounts of food. So from October 2010 to December 2010, I lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
So that was like my, okay, here we go. So I had to lose weight. If this makes any sense, I had to lose weight to work out.
That makes sense. You weren't even probably healthy enough to really hit the hard exercises yet, right?
Right, absolutely. So by the next summer, I had lost all the weight. So it took a little less than a year to lose 100.
So you must have been such an inspiration to the people around you. Did you see your friend, your circle of influence change during that time? Were you surrounding yourself with different people? Were they responding differently to you? Tell me what happened during that.
Yeah, and this is for anybody going through these transformations, whether it's financially, physically. There's going to either be people that are going to love what you're doing, or people that are going to hate what you're doing because it's not them, and they're not.
Yeah, I don't think everybody likes to see people around them succeeding. It can be a demotivator for some people. So usually they end up needing to be replaced. Did you find that you lost some relationships during that time?
Absolutely. And just organically it happened.
Oh, really?
For the good too, because you don't understand how toxic people are until they're removed from your life.
That's a good point.
So
sometimes it can be the hardest relationships, though. When I say hardest, I mean, I don't really know how to cut your own mother out of your life.
Right.
That can be, and so often, you'll hear people like Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this all the time. It's more often than not those types of people that are the ones playing the worst role in your life, because they're the ones that are telling you that your dreams are too far-fetched and telling you it can't work, and they haven't accomplished anything extraordinary in their lifetime anyway. So their belief systems are already tainted and jaded a specific way. And so I don't really know how to deal with that. I've always been so lucky to have the most supportive family in the world, and therefore it's hard for me to really relate to that. But I know it happens, and we talk to people week in and week out where that's going on. How do you guys deal with that when, let's say it's a professional challenge to help somebody from a behavior standpoint, where you can see the influence is perhaps, let's say, a direct family member or some of your closest friends? How would you advise somebody break away from that and still be able to kind of grind their way to whatever goal they have?
Well, I think the main thing that we like to teach people that are encountering behavior analysts for the first time or encountering these types of situations and asking a behavior analyst this question is, in behavior analysis, we have something called say, do, correspondence, and it's simple math. So what you say and what you do actually has to match. And if
Makes sense.
Sit back and observe the people that interact with you, and if what they say and what they do don't match and they don't have your best interest in mind, and that correspondence is really low, and you can look at it in a percentile. My say do correspondence, most of the time I'm hoping throughout my life I try and keep it at least 95% and above, because that 5% is just I made a mistake and I said I was
yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect, right? But
if you start kind of doing those mathematical of observations and kind of saying, about 10% of the time, Matthew's say-do correspondence matches, that's a really low correspondence. And it's not that Matthew's a bad person. Maybe he's just not in a place to support me or to be 100% or 90% or what I need in my life. And when you kind of look at things objectively and not judge people, especially people that you genuinely care about and that you're maybe family you're married into or people that are your blood, then you kind of take the emotions out of it and just say what they're saying and what they're doing just doesn't match. That's not where they are right now. And I'm over here, and you'll just intersect and you won't feel the need or the obligation to trust them all the time because you've already kind of done an analysis of it. And it's similar to financial matters. You have to look at all of the accounts first and analyze that before you can decide what to do.
You're exactly right. It's funny because we recently published a video about this exact topic, about doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Just that general dependability would change the whole world. If that correspondence level was increased for every single person on the planet, we would live in a completely different place. So I imagine that's the same type of topic, right? Just doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easier said than done, though.
It is. Yeah. People like to overpromise, and also people have a hard time saying no.
Yes.
And so when they're asked by somebody for something, a lot of people, I think, overpromise non-maliciously. It's not intended to, nobody's really out there to hurt someone intentionally, but it's, and they end up falling short because they technically should have probably said no to begin with. Recognize your capabilities too. So what would you guys advise people, aside from the say do, what would you advise somebody that's maybe having an issue getting to that next level or climbing out of a challenge? And so much of our demographic, as you guys both know, are already doing a lot right. It isn't a huge audience of people that are experiencing massive hardship. But we all go through our challenges. And a lot of the time the hardship is really massive, but it's not necessarily translating into despair, I suppose. I mean, some of the things I went through this year alone were incredible. I mean, I had a cousin that drowned and was revived and lived and is to this day already still doing super well. I mean, we're very, very lucky. But those types of traumatic experiences, there's only one way to avoid them from my experience, and that's you have to pass away. I mean, the longer you live, you're going to experience trauma. And so how do you guys, having gone through a lot of this, how do you help other people that are perhaps experiencing some sort of a holdup get through that faster and continue to thrive? What would you say, just based on what you've learned?
Well, for me, when things happen, whether they're as traumatic or not as traumatic, if it affects you in any way, what you have to do is just kind of stop what you're doing. Okay. And what people tend to do is, and I fell into this too, I need to recover so quickly that I got to do all these things, which makes the situation worse because you're not in a place to do a lot, right? So if you don't have a car, you're very limited on what you can do unless you work from home, which I didn't have a car. So I can't say I want 3 jobs because I have no way to get to them, So really just simplifying your life and breaking down the necessities, okay? How can I survive for right now and take one day at a time and build on that, And I tell my oldest son all the time, life is like building a brick wall. You've never seen a person build a brick wall all at once. I don't care who they are, they have to lay one brick at a time, and that's every day. in our lives. So every day is a brick. All you have to do is just worry about laying that one brick. Don't worry about the wall, because the wall is going to be finished as long as you lay a brick a day, you know? So
that's really powerful. So that really falls in line with what we were talking about last week then, Jamaun, because it was all about consistency and patience and having the courage to remain consistent and patient. And I asked you how confident you felt before teaming up with us. And your response was, absolute confidence, and this is where I uncover a lot of what you're explaining here today behind your background. And it made sense to me that you would feel that. So how do you think consistency and patience and courage have played a role in getting you where you are now? And is that something that you think is as important as we make it sound here on our channel?
Absolutely. I think it's more important, because, the definition of faith is believing in something that you can't see, right? You just think it's going to happen. You think it's there. You know it's going to be there, but how do we get there, right? And I feel like at VIP, the one thing that you guys are doing is the roadmap. That's the difficult part. If you gave me your address and just said, find my place, I'll be like, okay, well, do I make a left, right? Where do I go? But
that's true.
Give me a GPS and say, here are the directions, and someone's telling you turn left here, at the light turn right here, then you don't have to worry about where you're going to be, because it's going to be a whole lot better than where you are right now.
Right. Yeah. Driving around without a map doesn't exactly get you to a destination more quickly.
Right.
I think that's probably, the highest percentage issue that I see above and beyond any other is most people we speak with have their map is either non-existent or very limited. So I would 100% agree with that. And so, yeah, okay. So the roadmap is great, but without actually getting in the car and making the right turns and the left turns, the map is also useless too, right?
Right.
So you have to follow through and take the action.
You have to, we set goals, and for us, there's no such thing as an unattainable goal, right? So I could say we're going to make $1 million in 2 years. And some people might say that's too lofty. The only lofty part about that is what am I willing to do to get this $1 million? Mm-hmm. Am I willing to sacrifice what it takes? And that's what people have to understand, is that it's not about the goal, it's about the sacrifice. And that's what I preach and have been preaching in my marriage. Like, she see the results of 6 years ago now, and it's like, I never thought this could be this way right now, and we're reaching our goals much faster. And it's not because of the goal, it's because of what we're willing to sacrifice to achieve it.
Well, and you guys are obviously both really busy people. Yeah. And I find out today that you're already on the schedule for a session this afternoon, which will be your third. And you haven't been involved in your VIP coaching membership with us for more than a week or two now. So it shows the determination, right? And you have total freedom to schedule as frequently or infrequently as you want to. That's up to you. And so for you to take that action is indicative of how serious you are about, because you'll get out of it what you put in. So what, out of everything you guys have done so far, would you say has been the accomplishment that you're most proud of today?
Wow. So many.
What's been most satisfying to you?
I think becoming business owners probably is the root of all of our happiness, in the sense that we don't have to work for anybody. Working for businesses, as strange as it may sound, working for other people holds us back. So by the fact that freedom and us not having to work for anybody and being our own bosses has been the best.
The catalyst.
Yeah, the best thing that's ever
happened. Even though you've had to work twice as hard, twice as many hours, it's not like any of us go into business for ourselves and suddenly we actually technically have more freedom. We don't really, seemingly. I mean, at the end of the day, we're usually a lot more locked into a really difficult schedule than the average employee would be, right? And you still feel like it's kind of provided you this extra sense of freedom.
Yeah, I think it's actually real freedom. What I'm going to say next might be a little controversial for your channel, but I'm fine with saying it, is that employees often, with especially very large companies, are given an illusion of freedom, but their time is actually being monopolized.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Exploited.
They are being exploited, and they're being told 40 hours a week, and it actually means 60, and it actually means compromise your relationships, your family time, your vacation time, and nobody's compromising any of that time. We have full control over that, and that is what makes us that's where the grit comes from, is the freedom. I really do think that those two things are very well linked.
That's more important than money to me. That's the freedom is more important, especially having 4 kids.
Right.
The oldest being 15 in the 10th grade. The youngest
all boys, right?
All boys.
Oh man, Malika, you were one tough chica, huh? I have 2 brothers, so I know what my mom went through.
Yeah.
Even the dog's a boy.
You just can't win.
I can't.
Either that or you are winning. I don't know. It's one of
I think I am, but I'm telling you.
Queen B.
Yeah. But
well, that's very interesting, and I don't think that's a controversial statement on this channel at all. I think it supports everything we try and convey to people. You know, it is a matter of understanding that to be an employee does not give you extra of anything, including security, which is usually the most common falsehood, I think, about being an employee. Your job can be taken away from you anytime it doesn't work for the employer anymore. So there is really no safe zone when you're an employee. I think you're far safer being in control of your own revenue and your own decisions, as long as you have the consistency and patience. Again, that's been my experience, and courage too. So let's jump to a year from now and hypothesize, a celebration of what we've accomplished. Tell me, what did we achieve together that we're going to be celebrating a year from now?
For me, I feel like a solid foundation for the rest of my life, and I've done everything pretty much by myself without any outside help. And like you said, just a couple of weeks that I've been with VIP, not only has things been less stressful for me because I have a lot on my plate, but I can see clearer now, And so for me, in 12 months, the sky is the limit. I don't feel like there's anything that you guys offer that I can't achieve. And that's all I care about. It's not even a specific one thing. It's more of, well, I have a foundation to build on, and where can I go from here? Because 12 months to us goes so fast that it's like, what's next? We're always what's next, And like I told you before, I got my master's degree in 18, 19 months. So 12 months at a time is like, we're going to keep grinding it, chipping away. And then eventually, laying those bricks, we're going to have a wall. We're going to toast to the wall, So
what do you tell somebody that is maybe brand new to the channel or has been following along for some time, and for whatever reason there's an obstacle in their way? What's stopping them? Because you guys have been active participants of the channel now for years, right? I mean, you originally discovered our YouTube channel quite a few years back.
Yeah, it was like 2011, 2010.
One of the original probably collection of videos that we started posting, because the channel isn't a lot older than that now. So let's talk about what stopped you from originally reaching out. Why was there a 5 or 6 year delay? And then tell me, what would you advise anyone that might be experiencing something similar? Was the wait a good idea for you? Because it sounds like you were overcoming a few things. Obviously, with your, the relationship, you guys got married in 14, bought a new house in 13. You're transitioning professions. I'm assuming all of these things played a role in your timeline, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's another variable. We're both coming out of some pretty awful relationships as well. So that is another reason why we wanted to take our time, because when we got together, we said, this is forever, right? So in order for it to be forever, there's certain things that we have to do to ensure that us as husband and wife, our fiancés, and our children are taken care of before we start to branch out. Our tree trunk, as to say, And now we're like, okay, now it's time to put some some green leaves on these branches. So we have the strong trunk, and the weather's not going to blow us over. And I feel like for anybody who's watching your channel who feels a lot of instability, just get stable first. Just get stable so that you can receive the coaching the way that it's intended to.
I love that. That makes a ton of sense to me.
I also think that you may have some subscribers that are hesitant to kind of make that transition into getting direct services, because I know this happens for me a lot, and I say to myself, I'm really smart, I'm really educated, I can handle this, it's just dollars and numbers. Who can't do this? It's simple arithmetic. And so this isn't the case with this venture, of course, but sometimes my ego gets in the way, and I want to do it on my own because I can. I want to mow my own lawn because I can. I know how to, I know how to do it. I know how this works. And then you get halfway through and you're like, this is the worst. And I really
Oh, that's so true. God, you're just singing my song over there. I am the same way, I swear, through my entire 20s, because we're the same age, My entire 20s were spent just, my ego gave me some weird sense of accomplishment every time I was capable of achieving something by myself. Yeah. But what I had to eventually accept and reflect on and admit to myself was it was taking twice as long as it had to. And anything that, required an expense or a cost me twice as much as it had to, because I was just too proud to go out and ask for help. And, and it was pure ego, but it required a number of very, very expensive mistakes before I finally looked in the mirror and said, man, I don't think your ego is worth that much money at all. So that was interesting for me, because I've always struggled to ask for help. How have you done in general, Jamaun, as an athlete? You've been coached your whole life, right? How has that played a role in your ability to accept mentorship and coaching into your life in general? Is it something that you just naturally gravitate toward?
No, I'm quite the opposite. I was very, very hard to coach. Very, very hard to coach. And like I was saying before, that's one of the reasons why my NFL career was cut short, because I wasn't as coachable as I needed to be, right? And going through that actually makes me more coachable now.
Interesting.
Now
so you're able to look back now and see how that impacted things?
Yes, I see now specific things that my coaches told me that could have easily led me to the NFL.
Wow.
And I didn't do it, and that's why, when I signed up with VIP and they said, we recommend this, then I'm going to do it. So you want 3 to 4 in 30 days? Let's do 3 to 4 in 2 weeks, So I'm going to go above and beyond, because I feel like I've done enough in my life to know that VIP is real. I've followed you guys for long enough to know I don't have a question about the services. Right?
What stood out to you the most?
I have to just.
What gives you such a high level of confidence? What is it that really caught your attention over those years and years of watching things that seemed different than other sources of information for you?
I've been a part of a lot of get rich. I'm not going to say quick, but fast, get rich fast type of things. And like I told you when we spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, I said, Matthew, for me, your message has never changed. Like, I can literally watch the same video I saw in 2010, 2011, and it's the same message. And you're not talking about millions of dollars and this and that. It's just basically making your lives better, okay? Through these different techniques. And these techniques allow you to have, like we said, we want more freedom, right? Freedom to make decisions, freedom of time. I want to be rich with time, So just the consistency of your message is probably the one thing that allowed me to pick up where I left off from throughout all these years and jump right back on it as if I saw it for the first time.
Man, I'm so humbled. That's awesome. Yeah, what I have going for me and my message is that 4 will be the sum of 2 + 2 in 1,000 years. So, I'm just talking math, and the math proves that this isn't a get-rich-quick solution. It can't. $1 million isn't going to fall out of the sky doing what we teach. But it's almost the difference between, having a screwdriver and then being introduced to a power drill. It's like I can unscrew that many more screws throughout the day by having the leverage of acceleration and these extra tools, but it doesn't mean that, it's going to produce miracles. And I think that's a very important thing for people to take away from your message too, is you're foolish not to do it, but it's not the end all be all to your finances. It's very similar to you getting your trunk in place. It's the foundation. Everything else will end up becoming faster and easier because you're using this collection of techniques. So I really appreciate that and appreciate your confidence in us, and we're not going to let you guys down. So thank you so much for being a part of the team. Is there anything else that you want to add that you think a listener might benefit from?
Just stay with it, stay consistent and stay with it. For me, just doing the cash flow cruncher, I feel like the amount that it costs me to pay for your services in 2.5 weeks has already paid for itself.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about over the life.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take a lot. I say the same thing to people. I'm like, if this is a lifetime decision, right? You're changing the way you behave for the rest of your life. And those small, tiny, minuscule adjustments over time will produce unbelievable results that you look at and go, that has to be too good to be true, because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars over extended periods of time. And for people that want to get back into some form of investing, whether it's real estate or leveraging these debt weapon tools into new assets and borrowing larger sums over time, like I do, that can even mean millions of dollars in progress over 10, 15, 20 years of practicing. So especially those of us that are, in our late 30s, getting into our 40s and 50s, there's so much time left in your financial future that you have to recognize the consequences of following a system that is designed for us to fail. It is built for those at the top to continue to get wealthier and wealthier. And as long as you can kind of accept that philosophy and say, well, yeah, that's true, I believe that, then you have no choice but then to accept there are probably alternatives that will improve that plan. So I think you guys are very, very inspiring. I really appreciate you so much. And thank you for being open to sharing your story. Malika, anything that you want to add with that, future doctorate coming? I know your words of wisdom make ours look shameful. So
no. I am very humbled to know what I don't know, and my financial literacy is very low. I'm excited to learn more, but as you were talking, I was just thinking about it, like our country especially puts a lot of emphasis on people's physical health and their mental health and all these health domains, and then your financial health nobody talks about. And you don't realize how sick you are or how sick your family is financially until you start to really dig deep and look at it. And I think maybe that's why people don't pick up the phone and call you or shoot an email and say, I need your help, is because at that point, it really is difficult to kind of look at a bad situation or a situation that you've been ignoring for a long, long time and then finally staring at it. That's really scary.
It is scary, and it's really scary going into it. And what I find is, as you're actually dealing with it, it's incredibly empowering. And so I think probably it's just taking that first step. That's the worst part about it. That's the scariest and the most uncomfortable. But I see once baby steps of progress are being made, most of us feed on that. Then it's just how much faster can I go? And it becomes that snowball mentality of things. The momentum just gets faster and more powerful. And so I appreciate you saying that, because I think you're right. I think it is probably the fear that often stops people more often than anything else.
But your message is so good, because the first thing Jamaun said to me was probably different words, but I heard budget, which immediately I heard, you're not going to get to buy the cool stuff you buy every month.
Exactly. Well, budget is just, financial is like a diet. People think restriction.
Yes.
Nobody thinks a diet is going to be fun. And you can put yourself on some incredible diets that are so much healthier and taste even better. So that's one thing I do think people find popular about our messages. We're not about restriction and sacrifice. It's actually quite the opposite. We want people to flourish when it comes to lifestyle. We want people to have more access and freedom to spend. I don't want to give up, travel and eating out, and I used to love $6 coffees, and I've become smarter with those and found a way to get the same thing for a lot less. But I don't want to tell anybody not to spend where they're most passionate, whether that's tithing. But it's interesting to come across those stories where you run into somebody that is actually in a pretty dangerous position financially, usually cash flow, and they're still out, tithing 10% of what they earn to their charity or their church. And how do you have a conversation with somebody about being only a fraction of what they could be for other people when they're not in a position of safety first? You have to take care of yourself first before you can help other people. It's like the oxygen mask on the airplanes,
Right.
So I think that's great. I want to encourage everybody, if you haven't done so already, just have another set of eyes on your circumstances. Just get another perspective. See what is possible that you might be missing, because we are blinded due to our own filters. It's like we have these little blinders on, and we're all narrowly focused on what we know most and what's most comfortable for us. So having somebody to help encourage you to break through and see something that you couldn't have seen otherwise is critical. And we do offer one free coaching session to everybody that has at least $500 per month left over in average cash flow. So that's your starting point. You've got to have 500 or more in positive cash flow. If you're not yet there, you're in a dangerous position. Anything that goes sideways could cause you absolute financial chaos. And if you're not in that position yet, I usually refer you away to Dave Ramsey's channel. I think is a great starting point. That really is the financial 101 topic matter that's being discussed. There are other channels on YouTube that are terrific. People like Minority Mindset offers a great channel I recently shared with you guys. I love Patrick Bet-David's Valuetainment channel. I think he gives great ideas and suggestions for how to increase your revenue. Revenue is only one way of creating more cash flow. The other is obviously a reduction of expenses. And those are the only two ways to have more money left over at the end of the month. Make more, spend less. Because we know we really don't want to spend less. Then making more ends up either being the priority or going out and really using what we're teaching to spend less in your banking. So if you can prevent yourself from spending a lot of extra money on interest costs, if you're planning your taxes correctly, you guys can pile tens of thousands of dollars per year back into your availability. And so again, take that first step, get your free coaching session. We do have a long wait right now. We are talking from time to time on this channel about how you can get started more quickly. You guys took advantage of that. In fact, I don't know why anybody wouldn't take advantage of that, because you get the best price point when you do it that way anyway. So why spend more money just to wait 4 months, which you shouldn't be doing anyway? You lose all that time. If you lose 4 months waiting for a free coaching session, we could have made up the cost of the entire membership exponentially during that first 4 month window. So just keep in mind, guys, that if you're not a good fit after signing up as a Quick Start member, we void the relationship and we refund you your tuition. At no point in time do we try and trap any members. This is not that type of business model. We're very much a team in this, and we function like family. So we're here to either give you a return on your investment that would exceed any normal person's definition of a no-brainer, or you're not going to be qualified as a candidate at this time. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to let you get back to your day. You're both very, very busy people. I can't even believe I got this much time with you. So thank you so much. And you guys know how to reach me. I'm always available to you. If you need any assistance in, enhancing your experience with us, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Very much so. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right.
Chat with you soon, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.